Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. What I love most about this podcast is it's home for me. And I don't even realize it until the moment that I actually click record and then I see the countdown from 5 down to 1, 0, and then I'm here. It's almost like there's a shift of state that naturally happens because I am who I am here, but also at the same time, a different version of who I am. And so I want to talk about that because we talk about this old version versus new version. And while that's a great concept because it allows us to reflect back, there's no way to have that conversation without also, to a certain degree, being in comparison. And our level of comparison is also what slows us down. It's like walking towards what we want in quicksand. And so this being the second episode, but let's say the beginning of the year, I really, really want to talk about this concept of goals. Because my goal, if you will, for this entire podcast, which I've been doing for 5 years, has always been the same, which is I very much honor your time. And if you can come here and spend 20 minutes or so of your time and then actually take something that moves you forward in your day, then over time, you're literally becoming a new human and it's happening to you in an effortless way. Now, your part in this is that you come here completely open. And many of you listen to this podcast, these episodes 2 to 3 times. You take notes. Some of you join the club and we have bigger conversations about it. Whatever this means to you is no different than whatever else you're doing in life is also, it's not what you're doing. It's what does it mean to you? We're always looking for the key to life. And I would say the key to life is choosing the meaning of everything. What does it mean that I met with my team twice this week already, and I actually feel a little pressure about all the stuff that we have going on? What does that mean? What does it mean that I felt the heaviness of the list, if you will, that I have just this morning, and that I can come here and feel completely calm and open? What does it mean that my goals are different this year? All of it is the choosing. And if you're not choosing, nothing really matters. Because if you're not choosing, then you are accepting or not accepting, and you're in resistance of what is being presented to you by the world. Now, this is a big giant snake eating its tail, because what is being presented to you by the world is actually what you've created. So you are choosing all the time. It's just you're not choosing with awareness all the time. And so when we talk about goals, if I were you, and to a certain degree I am, because we have a resonance here, then I would say that your goals don't matter. What matters is the meaning that you're giving around everything that is here present for you in this moment, and that is a function of your goals showing up in the 3D. So your goals, to a certain degree, even though you have set them, and many of you have money goals, you've set them so at some level they don't matter anymore, because no one has to remind you of those. If someone does have to remind you of those, meaning you have to go look at a list or something, then please correct that now, because that is not an embodiment. And I would actually encourage you to minimize the amount that you have, Because if you try and become this self-expression of 18 goals, that's going to be much more confusing as a signal to the universe than 1 to 3. So right now, your goal is not the goal itself because it's already been set. So it's within you. And think of it like a software program. It will be filed back to you on an ongoing basis. Your goal is actually being comfortable with the fact that you are highly uncomfortable, because if you weren't uncomfortable, you wouldn't be being that new version of you and stretching into that. A friend of mine, we talked about this yesterday in terms of the butterfly effect, because, a butterfly actually has to have that last moment squeeze, that pain, which who knows, but it is noted to be the height of its suffering, is at that last moment. And many of us, we've talked about the 2025 and the suffering that we did go through. Well, now 2026, yeah, okay, great. It's the year of the horse. We're excited about all of this, but you can just as easily become a rendition of 2025 and feel slightly better. And you could do that blindly without knowing it. And I would say that you're, to a certain degree, going to do that unless you are literally looking at yourself from a perspective of, did I do that? Because that doesn't feel like me anymore. Or, I don't like this feeling, but I'm going to be with it. Because you're going to direct your energy one way or the other. Many people direct their energy in terms of doing. And so what they're doing is they are trying to meet a goal based on the old version of themselves. And that requires a lot of energy. It requires being more efficient, being more productive. It requires all different types of things, sacrifice even to a certain degree. Some of us don't feel like we're moving forward towards our goal unless we are sacrificing to a certain degree, because that's what our energetic system expects and knows. But all of that leads to exhaustion. So if you are feeling exhausted, that is evidence that you are not moving towards your goal in this new way, which is the way that we talk about here and teach inside the Spiritual Investor. You're not moving towards it by pulling energy down from the universal field and then implementing it in the 3D. Because when you do that, you can't be the same version of you, because the energy that you're pulling down is dynamic. If you're truly the conduit and you're allowing that energy to flow through you in a very minimal resistant way, then you would have already managed your blocking of that feeling uncomfortable. When pulling energy down, something new dynamically can move through you, and you are not putting meaning on the level of uncomfortability, then you have lowered the resistance and you have increased your probability that your goal is going to come to you faster. This all is a very, very simple process, although sometimes it sounds complex, perhaps, because language doesn't really fit around it. But there's a frequency here, and there's a frequency that you're on that is similar in a way. If this podcast or any of this information even resonates with you, whether it's Instagram or whatever. So when you are in this state of being where you're pulling energy down, what's natural and therefore could be expected is that it's like being in a new orbit where the answers are floating around you, but they're new. And so your job becomes to be more curious about the answer being new and not of you than you were perhaps in the past, of the answer feeling like, oh, this feels good to me. Because comfortability and deep calmness are different. Comfortability is my life works. But you can continue for the next 50 years and your life can work, and you have not gotten any closer to what you're literally, and you have a deep knowing you're here to do on this planet. And we have to recognize that those are two different things and two different paths, and no wrong or right here. There are people who are like, I just want to be comfortable and financially secure and just, travel, be at ease. Great. Then that's what you're here to do. And if you lean into that and that is wonderful for you, that actually becomes your mission and your gift, because the self-expression of someone who is in resonance with that is just as valuable in the world as someone who is going out there and producing content that changes millions. And I want you to really see that, because part of what I'm talking about here is there's a self-acceptance that meets letting go that is profound that you can bring in your life. Self-acceptance is actually part of the letting go. Letting go isn't just saying, I'm going to accept something that I don't like. Self-acceptance would be, in my case, I like to do things in collaboration and in teams. That's part of the reason I have been in relationships. It's a team dynamic for me. Now, that doesn't mean I don't change, because I scrambled and get to, I'm now looking at all of that. But I'm still looking at it from a place of self-acceptance. And I'm leaning into it. Just this morning, I have someone who's coming to clean the house. And I'm like, you know what? My schedule is pretty hectic. So I sent her a message. I said, can you stop by the grocery store on the way? And she's like, happy to do it. Here's your list. Okay, great. So no better or worse, but for me, 2026 is about going deeper into the superpower that I have tapped into, and we all have a superpower, but the superpower that I have tapped into, going deeper into that. And that requires a letting go. I have new people coming in to help me now. I have new support systems that are very much in the frequency and the alignment of where I am. I've had support systems the entire time. But sometimes a support system doesn't look like you think it does. Sometimes a support system is actually a tearing down. And there is no way that I would be where I am now had I not had that to a certain degree. And I think we can all agree on that. But going back to this, the answers floating around you, choosing meaning. You can practice this on an ongoing basis by stepping back to be the observer and looking at yourself when the meaning carries lower significance. What does it mean that I have two pens sitting here on my desk that are not in the pencil thing? My mind goes to exactly what it means and could mean. What that is that's a moment by moment practice of me looking at the meaning that I have already assigned, which is the same exact thing as me being willing to let that meaning go. Where the trick comes in is you can't then assign new meaning. There's a pause. However, that also pause is an important practice, because that's how you see the answers floating around. So going back to comfortability is different than deep calmness. Comfortability is, oh, those pens aren't on the desk. They're in the pen holder, the little cup thing. That's comfortability. Calmness is, I challenged my own meaning, which means I challenged my previous version in my past. And then I'm going to pause and allow silence in. When that becomes the way that I operate on an ongoing basis, which it pretty much is and has been, my life continues to open up, open up, open up. Like, I had some meetings over the Christmas break that they were me as the new bigger, expanded version of me, even though I was still sitting there as the old version. And my level of awareness of that is what allows me to drop into the calmness. So I'm sitting in there in the giant, big, beautiful office in Nashville talking about something that I haven't even shared with you guys yet, but is coming up. And I'm calm because that's my state of allowing in of that new, right? There's nothing to do at that point. Now that I've set the new goals for 2026, which is based on what we learned, we did a debrief of 2025. 2025 was our biggest year yet, revenue-wise, in the company. It also, we did the most we'd ever done team-wise. Now the goals are different, though, because I'm different. We're going to do fewer masterminds, which, by the way, we are in open enrollment right now, but you only have 2 weeks. So if you want to join a mastermind, I would say do that now. You can just go to thespiritualinvestor.com. You can apply. We're going to have fewer masterminds. We are going to have a private event, at least one. And we're doing things different in terms of the program. But one of the big goals, and I have never had this and could not have had this being the old version of me. And this is where I get giddy and delighted, because the evolution and the journey of the goals is the magic for me. One of my big goals is the team feeling this comfortability and ease that I'm talking about, that I have built within myself and that I operate with. If I'm not bringing it to the closest people to me and to my team, then I need to look at my relationship with that. And that in itself is bringing something to them, but it's also up-leveling my ability to be in successful relationships, to break out of the role of that. The people who are on my team, they've all been with me for years because we're a family. That's the way I run a team, and my style of leadership is very much a hands-off. Everyone is their own leader, and we produce magnificent results. However, there's a lot that has come through me that I can share with them, but I have to make sure that they stay at the top of my priority list in a way that they are evolving, not just producing results for the company. And I'm really, really proud that I've become that human, honestly. And I've become it because I have allowed the people in around me, and I have been willing to look at the meaning and then pause. And I get into my emotional states, but I see my emotional states rather than being in my emotional states now. And so I want to circle back to something that I said at the beginning, because goals is just such a buzzword right now. And I really, really want to invite you to see that achieving your goals is a reflection of your own evolution in the form of self-expression. And the moment that you don't put meaning around the way that that is supposed to feel, you free yourself up to choose from those new answers orbiting around you. And if you can make your goal be less about the actual end goal, because that's going to come anyways, that money, that relationship, that new home, that's going to come anyway as a function of the self-expression of who you are. And so the way that you have that goal in the future and you operate in the moment is being with what that actually looks like, which can seem like a bunch of holy fuck moments. And your monkey mind is going to want to think that you are doing something wrong, that your red flags are going up and the alarm bells are going up. That is the moment that separates the men from the boys. And we'll say the girls from the women. But I really want you to see that that is the goal. And even when I say I want you to see that, that's not even correct. If you do see that and that works for you, then I have met my goal. I don't actually have a desire for you to see that, because then that puts me externally over there with you, which I'm not willing to do, because that actually takes me away from you. And this is what I mean when I came on here and I said, the moment that countdown gets to 0, I'm home. And so this concept of home has been, coming into my world a lot lately, but the structure that I have around me, which I have a lot of help, I have an amazing team, amazing family, friends, all of it. The more I can spend at home, which is doing things like this, the more I'm actually there and can provide for them, because I'm a natural provider. The more I can lean into, I like to be in teams. I'm a natural provider. I like to deeply connect with people. Sure, some of that stuff is going to come from the way I grew up and my trauma and all that. But I think we can also go too far into this needing to fix things. Maybe we can choose self-acceptance without dismissal versus fixing in 2026. Because I think what comes out of the end of that is love. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on the next episode.